Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Apex Racing TV and iRacing Live, and welcome to the heartland of America here in Georgia and the Road Atlanta circuit for week 3 of the IMSA Sportscar Series. A slightly longer race than usual than we've had over the last few weeks, a 75-minute race today, and that could really open up the strategy for the three classes, the Daytona prototypes, the German GT3s, and the new Porsche 911 class. Well, hello everybody, Adam Bath here along with Ryan Walker for this one, and Sam Kumo on the cameras of course as well. And Ryan, we're at Atlanta. It's a fast and flowing circuit. It's going to be difficult for these drivers to get right today.
Yeah, absolutely, Adam. Road Atlanta is one of those tracks that I just love doing in multi-class racing, and it's also one of those tracks when it comes to multi-class racing. Sorry. It's very difficult to lap traffic, and one slip up around here and it could possibly cost you.
Of course, you were doing the Porsche race last Monday. One of the things we seem to be seeing this season in that category anyway is that it's pretty difficult to get an overtake done. We see huge packs but not too many overtaking in the Porsches this season.
Yeah, that's the difficulty with the Porsche being basically, I guess in a way, it's a fixed setup car, I could say. It's basically the packs are so close that it's difficult to overtake, and the only chance that you really get to overtake someone in the Porsche is if someone makes the mistake, or if you're just lucky, I guess.
Well, the qualifying is just underway at the moment. We've got 2 laps for the drivers to get their times in, and then of course a 1 hour 15-minute race. And with this longer race time, Ryan, compared to the 45-minute race that we usually have, can we see a wider pit window, or do you think the drivers will be sticking to their pretty rigid pit stop strategy?
I guess some drivers will try and use a different strategy, or try and use something different. Maybe try and go for an undercut or an overcut, or maybe just basically think outside the box.
We should also take time to explain why we haven't had too many broadcasts this weekend, or the last 3 or 4 days on Apex Racing TV. Part of the new build that was released just a few days ago, which included the new dirt, which has been on iRacing. We've seen plenty of brilliant shots of that over the last few days. However, it seems to have developed a bug with the reverse grid system, and that is vital to pretty much all the championships that we cover on Apex Racing TV. So last night we had to cancel, of course, the BSR Kia Cup race. That's going to move to next week, I believe. Also tonight, the BSR Mazda MX-5 Cup race has been postponed. That's going to be moved to nearer the end of the season, the second race meeting of that series. And I believe the Club 73 Touring Car Championship race has also been postponed as well. So hopefully iRacing will have resolved these issues and we can get them sorted for the Formula Renault race, which will be taking part on Tuesday as well. So that explains why we haven't had too many broadcasts the last few days here on Apex Racing TV. And qualifying just coming to an end now, and Simon Grossman on pole position in the Daytona prototypes. Only 7 of the Daytona prototypes here today, 10 German GT3s and 10 Porsche 911s. You had much time in any of these cars, Ryan, at all over the last few weeks?
I've done some races in the GT cars, in the Mercedes. I raced in the Mercedes GT car at the Daytona 24 Hours with the Season 1 guys. We happily finished in second place, which we were quite happy about. We also done the Sebring 12 Hours and the BMW Z4, or Z4 as the Americans like to call it. And we didn't have such a good race there after having issues in the early stages of the race, but we managed to finish the race, and yeah, happy days.
Hoping to join the Cheese and Wine group for the Nürburgring 24 Hours. I'm thinking about that. Yeah, Porsche, just hearing from our cameraman and Porsche expert, I think we can say, does the strength of field race on Monday and races in the BSR Porsche Cup, Sam Kumo. The Porsche very aero efficient, little slipstreaming and challenging under braking. That is why it is hard to overtake, and you can see the same of that, similar situations like that's happening here at Road Atlanta, despite the fact we've got pretty long straight here at Road Atlanta, going into one of the best overtaking spots on the circuit, the chicane. However, we've got the grid to run you down now. Simon Grossman on pole position. Joseph Burton Harris, good qualifying from him. Third in the championship, he starts second today. Marco Archdiacono starts in third. David Weiss in fourth. Dirk Reinhardt, championship leader, starting in fifth. And sixth is Danilo Piazza and Thibaut Vernice, starting in seventh position. On pole position in the German GT3s, it's Massimo Carbignani, and then it's Cohen Klopman in second place there. I believe he used to race in the rough class category a few seasons ago when we were covering the IMSA Sportscar Series. Luigi Nespolino starts third, Hugo Preto in fourth, Jorge Blascavals in fifth, Marco Gabriele Nessi starting in sixth, seventh Mika Lerki, eighth Nestoras Kiasoglu, and then Paul Darling in ninth, and Azam Zdalmasi rounding out the German GT3s. Then into the Porsches. 10 cars there, and we've got Marcel Fassbender starting in pole position there, Michel Ricci starting in second, Andres Quintana starting in third, Johannes Schafranca in fourth, fifth Dimitri Korski in fifth place there, sixth is Matthias Schoger, seventh Jason Marikal, eighth Nick Thiessen, ninth is Eero Tuominen, and then at the back in 28th place and 10th in the Porsches, it is Andy Pers. Coming over the top of the hill now, but getting ready for the third race meeting of the season in the IMSA Sportscar Series. As I'm here with Ryan Walker and Sam Kumo on the cameras. Ryan, just heading up into this double apex section, and this is going to be a part of the circuit where you really need to get it right, because after this right-hander, which they're going into now, you're going to go on the longest straights on the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. These double right-handers are, you basically want to try and get as much of a good exit as you can, because if you can get a good exit and carry that speed onto this long back straight headed to the final corners, you could. And if you get a good run on someone, you could possibly try and move into the final chicane. And yeah, it's just basically, if you can do that, then you're laughing.
Hope you're enjoying your Sunday here on Apex Racing TV. Plenty of motorsport as well to keep you entertained during the day. We had the British Superbike Championships kicking off. We had World Superbikes as well. We had the British Touring Cars as well, starting their championship up at down at Brands Hatch, I should say. And we've got plenty more action to come up here in the IMSA Sportscar Series. A 75-minute race. Here come the Daytona prototypes through the chicane now. Watch out for that corner during the race. That is definitely going to be one of the main overtaking points on the circuit. The iRacing safety cars now come into the pit lane, and now the field's in the hands of Simon Grossman. Through the final corner we go. The green flag is in the air, and round 3 of the IMSA Sportscar Series is underway. And look at Marco Archdiacono already trying to take second place into the first corner, trying to get up the inside of Burton Harris, but it doesn't look like that's going to work. And a good start from Dirk Reinhardt, already up a position. Same for Thibaut Vernice. And now here come the German GT3s for the final corner to start their race. Massimo Carbignani already got a bit of an advantage over Cohen Klopman in his BMW. It's interesting to see that the BMW is pretty strong around here, considering it's not that good on the straights. However, with this this fast and sweeping section we're going into now, downforce is everything, and that is what's going to help this BMW around this circuit. And the Porsche's getting underway as well. Michel Ricci leading the way there. Good start from him, right? He's been able to get past Marcel Fassbender in the early going, and Johannes Schafranca also up for position, and same too for Matthias Schoger.
Yeah, Michel Ricci wasn't hanging around there. He wanted to basically. He was very racy. That I noticed in the formation lap. He was very eager to try and gain a position straight away. That I noticed, and he's managed to do that.
That's now heading on to the back straight for the first time. Then slipstreaming already starting to begin. No changes in the Daytona prototypes as of yet, but now we can see in the German GT3s Nessi and Jorge Blascavals, those two are going at it into the chicanes. The two Mercedes there, up the inside goes Blascavals. That is going to be 5th place back for him. Nessi isn't giving up though, has a little look up the inside going into the second part of the chicane, and don't rule out Mika Lerki either. He could have an opportunity to get a position here as well. And Nestoras Kiasoglu also keeping a watchful eye as these German GT3s complete their first lap. Kiasoglu having a little look up the inside there into the first corner. It's such a quick entry into into here. Ryan, I don't think we're going to be seeing too many overtakes here, without contact, probably.
Yeah, I would say the only chance that you would get into turn 1 trying a passing move is maybe if you get a good run on the exit of the final corner and carrying that speed down the hill across the finishing line. If you might be able to try a passing move into turn 1, but it's a bit of a risky place to try.
Now, because this track is so quick, there is a big difference in lap times between the three classes, so we can expect to see the Daytona prototype starting to lap cars in the not too distant future. 1 minute 16 was the time on the opening lap done by Simon Grossman. In qualifying it was 1 minute 13, 1 minute 19 is done by the German GT3s, and 1 minute 21 is done by the Porsches. So it's pretty similar to previous weeks with the German GT3s and the Porsches have a bit of a bigger difference in lap times between the Daytona prototypes and the German GT3s. German GT3s now go into the chicane once again. High percentage of Audis in the field today, but leading the way is Carbagnani and his Mercedes. Second is the BMW of Cohen Klotman, and third Nespolino. Simon Grossman in the Daytona prototypes, half a second lead over Joseph Burton Harris, and in third place now Marco Archdiacono, a bit on his own at the moment. Dirk Reinhardt already up a position, championship leader as well. He is trying to do his best to get up the order, and a battle in the Porsches as well, I believe, as Matthias Schoger and Johannes Schafranco are going side by side into the S's. This might not end well. Up the inside goes Schoger, forces Schafranco off, and well, that was pretty robust racing. Something you expect from the Kias, I think, Ryan.
Yeah, that was a bit argy-bargy.
Well, that was Schoger up into third position. He's not wasting any time at all in the early stages of the race here, considering we've got an extra half an hour of racing. Yeah, quite interesting to see there. Matthias Schoger, he wants to probably get near his teammate, Marcel Fassbender. He's up to third now. Schoger, 3 positions gained for him in the early going, and a Porsche getting sideways on the exit of the 90-degree right-hander here on the 12-turn circuit. That was Nick Thiessen. Who's he got behind him there? That is Jason Marical in car 24. Building up slipstream here to 260 kilometers per hour as we go into the chicane, but just not close enough to get a move done just yet, but reaching high speeds in the early going, and just behind Marical you can see Eero Tuominen. So as we expected, the Porsches all running pretty close at the moment, but apart from Schoger in the early going, not too many overtakes being made just yet. Pretty stalemate in the Daytona prototypes at the moment, but just looking at the leader in the German GT3s for the time being, Ryan, Massimo Carbagnani in the Italian German GT3, the Mercedes there, not getting away from Cohen Klotman, which is surprising really, because the BMW, as we're going onto the back straight now, isn't the quickest car in a straight line.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that Cohen's keeping up with Massimo. The BMW around Road Atlanta, from my past experience, hasn't been the quickest car around Road Atlanta, but it seems to be the BMW seems to be able to make up that time in the corners as well, especially the high speed corners. But it just seems to be in a straight line. It loses some time. Just an overtake just now. Nestoras Kiasoglu getting past Mika Lurki. That is an overtake for 7th and 8th. Kiasoglu up 1 position then, and Mika Lurki, the Finnish driver, down to 8th place. Interesting, just saw that that Cohen Klotman's car is sponsored by Dyson for this race. We'll get one in early. Hopefully he'll be hoping to hoover up the opposition and get on his way to victory. And last time around he was just a few hundredths of a second slower than Carbagnani, but as Ryan was saying, great to see the BMW going on terms with the Mercedes in the early going. Just think we've got any Audis in the field today. Hugo Prato is one of them. He is in 4th position, that is where he qualifies, but behind him he has got 2 very menacing looking Mercedes in Marco Gabriel in Jorge Bascovals and Marco Gabriele Nessi as we come out of the right-hander and onto the back straight now. Interesting to see the 2 speeds that we get in the Audi and the Mercedes here. Ryan, as Hugo Prato, he looks like he's trying to defend a little bit now. Yeah, it just seems to be he's maybe the Audi is maybe the same as the BMW in some ways. it's not as quick in a straight line, but in the corners it seems to be able to make up that time again. But in a straight line, he seems to be. It looks like he's having to defend from both Mercedes behind him. So yeah, it'll be interesting to watch.
A good job here, and of course we've got the pit stops coming up in the race. 1 hour and 7 minutes to go. The drivers won't be thinking about that just yet. Interesting to see if the drivers think about any tyre strategy as well. Usually the typical strategy in the 45-minute races that we usually have is just to get the fuel on and then you're on your way. But with this 75-minute race, longer race as well, will the drivers think about making those changes on the tyres and possibly get a bit of fresher rubber, as Hugo Prato could do with them, as he makes a big mistake coming on the exit of turn 5 on the exit of the S's, and that is Brascoval's through, and it might also be Nessie through going into turn 6. No way through for him, but the Mercedes upper position and up into 4th position now, Jorge Brascoval. So that turn 5 on the exit of the S's, right, it is pretty easy to make a mistake there. It invites you in with the high speed, and then if you go over those curbs too much, the car bottoms out and you make a mistake.
Yeah, from past experience, I've found if you carry too much speed across those curbs, it seems to unsettle the car, and if you carry too much speed and it unsettles the car, it's just, you lose out a little bit. So yeah, it can cost you at times.
Not too much runoff area there either.
Yeah, exactly.
Being told that Grossman, our race leader in the Daytona prototypes, has caught the back end of the Porsches. Hasn't taken long at all, has it? 7 laps, and that is just under 10 minutes as he goes past there Andreas Quintana. Next is Dimitri Korsaki, and you can see here comes Marco Diacono on Joseph Burton Harris. It looks like Burton Harris has really caught the Porsches at a bad time here, and we finally have a battle to look at in the Daytona prototypes. Burton Harris on 16.3 on that last lap, 14.4 Marco Diacono, Ryan, and this Porsche pack, since it's come in, taken over from the roofs, we've seen moments like this. They seem to really hold up the Daytona prototypes, and we're seeing that now.
Yeah, I was watching Burton Harris, and yeah, it's exactly like you said, that Burton Harris just caught the traffic in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it's cost him dearly, and it's allowed Marco to basically quickly catch up to him, and then we might be seeing a pass on the back straight here by Marco. Yeah,
the Marco Diacono and Joseph Burton Harris both lapping Matthias Schoger there. No, that was Johannes Schafranco, we still got forced off earlier. Here they come then, slipstream getting picked up by Diacono as they lap Fassbender, and now into the chicane at turns 10A and 10B. Burton Harris goes in way too deep. Diacono up the inside, takes a lot of curve as well, somehow doesn't pick up a slowdown penalty, but that is a fantastic cutback there, Brian, and Marco Diacono up in 2nd place.
Yeah, that was a fantastic move. That all started from the start of the back straight on the exit of the second right-hander heading onto the back straight. Marco managed to get a run onto Burton Harris, and yeah, that move into the final chicane was that was textbook perfect.
Well, we've had a few position changes as well in the Daytona prototypes whilst that battle was going on. David Weiss in 7th place. He just got overtook by Danilo Piazza going into turn 1. The Italian Team GT driver racing in the Daytona prototypes here as they lap Dimitri Korsaki, and Thibaut Vernice, the big gainer there, up 2 positions as he now laps Johannes Schafranco. So we can expect the Daytona prototypes to shuffle around a bit when they lap these Porsches, but for the time being it's still Simon Grossman that leads 5 seconds ahead of new 2nd place man Marco Diacono. Joseph Burton Harris half a second behind him in 3rd, Dirk Reinhardt 4th, Thibaut Vernice in 5th. In the German GT3s, Carbagnani leading Cohen Klopman by 6/10. Then 2nd back to Nespolino, 3rd, Blascoval's 4th, and Hugo Prato in 5th. And in the Porsches, Michel Ritchie 2 seconds ahead of Marcel Fassbender, Matthias Schoger in 3rd, Johannes Schafranco in 4th, and Dimitri Korsaki in 5th. Those are your top 5 in your respective classes in the early going so far. And Simon Grossman isn't too far away now from getting onto the rear end of the German GT3s. Adam Salmasi not too far away. He's just heading through the exit of the S's now. Done much multi-class racing on iRacing at all, Ryan, recently?
The only multi-class racing I've done really at the moment is the Daytona 24, the Daytona 24 hours, and Sebring 12 hours with the Team Cheese and Wine guys, as I mentioned, and that's the only type of multi-class racing I've done at the moment. But I'm hoping to maybe do some official series multi-class racing during the week.
I think that, yeah, the Daytona 24 hours, that was this class of cars, wasn't it? The Daytona prototypes, the GT3s and the Porsches, wasn't it?
I believe it was just the Daytona prototypes and the GT3s, but I'm more than happy to be corrected by one of my teammates.
What was it? With these Daytona prototypes approaching you, what's the best tactic really if you're in a car in one of the lower classes?
The tactic that I'll say that again. The tactic I've always used is just stick to your line. If you're in a GT car, let the faster cars find their way around you safely. But sometimes you have to move offline because you get the odd person in a DP or a HPD or whatever trying to dive bomb you just because they're in a faster car, and then it's just basically my advice is stick to your line and let them find their way around you, and you'll be fine.
It is a difficult task, I do have to say, sticking to your line. For some reason, instinct for me is just to move out of the way and let them through. But yeah, especially if there's a group of faster cars behind that are in a battle, you really don't want to move off the line. Otherwise, there can be big consequences and a few big crashes as well, as the Daytona prototypes start to lap the German GT3. So now Simon Grossman just putting a lap there on Marco Nessi, who's got Kia Soglu for company there. Team Mercedes, Team GT driver there, Nessi, and Kia Soglu there, the international driver. But Marco Carbagnani, a bit of a way ahead of Simon Grossman just yet. However, there's a change to second place in the Daytona prototypes. Marco Archdiacono is off. He is off in the first corner. What happened here? It was a good run on the exit of the final corner, it looks like. Brian, and they just caught a German GT3 the worst possible opportunity. It was an Audi, so it can only be, well, it was Paul Darling actually going into turn one, and Marco Archdiacono getting onto those curves that we were talking about earlier, and it forced the Daytona prototype, the Corvette Daytona prototype off onto the grass, and it meant he lost the position there.
Yeah, I'm just watching the replay now, and it just looks like you ran a little too wide and just caught the outside curb, and it just pitched him and forced him to run wide. But yeah, he didn't hit the wall and he managed to survive. So yeah, hopefully he can try and increase that gap again.
It's not too far behind Joseph Burson Harris after that, off just 1.2 seconds, and Burson Harris having issues here trying to get past the two squabbling German GT3s, the two squabbling Mercs in Marco Nessi and Nestoras Kia Soglu. Next up for him is Hugo Prato in that Audi for Burson Harris. Once again having to encounter an Audi through the first corner. Gets a good run there on the exit of turn one, and that is 5th place in the German GT3's laps. And that's put a bit of a gap now between himself and Marco Archdiacono, who's really got the traffic at the worst possible time, Ryan, through the S's.
Yeah, through the S's, if you can't see the traffic at the start of the S's, it's basically, it can cost you time, and it's so annoying, it's so frustrating. But it's just one of those things you have to deal with in multi-class racing. If you catch the traffic in the worst place possible, or in the wrong place at the wrong time, it's just one of those things that you've just got to suck it up and deal with it.
And the time difference when you lap traffic around this circuit is pretty big. 1:13.7 was Simon Grossman's best lap in the race. When he was lapping the German GT3s on that last lap, he was a good 1.3 seconds slower, and Joseph Burson Harris, when he got past for second place earlier on in the race, did a 1:16. So if you're lapping the traffic, especially through the S's like we were just talking about there, then you're definitely going to be losing a huge amount of time, and that can be pretty crucial, especially when the pit stops come around. The drivers will be making sure that they do not lose any time whatsoever. 58 minutes to go in the race. We are 22 minutes into round 3 of the IMSA Sportscar Series at Road Atlanta. 4.09 kilometre circuit here in Georgia, in Braselton, Georgia, USA. 12 corners, and the conditions here today, 22 degrees centigrade and 37 degrees centigrade. So pretty warm track temperature here at Road Atlanta, and the drivers really got their work cut out in this 75-minute race, longer than the usual 45-minute race that we have in the IMSA Sportscar Series. And will that throw up any surprises? We are yet to find out. But good race in the early going. We saw a quick battle there in the Daytona prototypes, and now to the German GT3s, where Hugo Prato is now under pressure by another Audi, and this Mercedes, I should say. It's Marco Nessi as they come out of turn 7, building up the speed, and this is a bit of a gaggle here. We've got Daytona prototypes trying to lap them as well as we go into turns 10A and 10B. And Ryan, if you're a German GT3, would you call a truce to this battle and just make sure that these Daytona prototypes get through for now? We'll hear from Ryan in a second as Daytona prototypes continue their way through. You can see here how Hugo Prato has benefited hugely by the Daytona prototypes, because he's now pulled out a huge advantage over Nessi in 6th place. And now it's Kia Soglu that's having to apply the pressure to the Italian GT driver. And just behind those two, Mika Lurki, Paul Darling and Adam Salmassi also battling there. So pretty close there in the German GT3s. Just looking back through the Porsches to see if we've got any close competition there. It's pretty spread out really at the moment. So the Porsches doing their own thing. But the lead actually in the German GT3s is starting to close up a little bit as well. Massimo Carbagnani on that last lap, 1:19.8. Cohen Klotman was 0.2 of a second slower. However, it looks like Ryan's put the pace down on this. He's put the hammer down on this lap, and interesting to see what the lap time's like when we come back round to start the next lap. But yeah, the Dyson BMW starting to close in on our lead. Looks like we still haven't got Ryan Walker, and we may have lost him. So hopefully we get to see him later. We get to hear from him later in the race. But yeah, close battle at the moment.
Yeah, I'm back. My microphone stopped working for some reason.
Ah, there we go.
Sorry.
That's okay. But yeah, I was just talking about lead battle in the German GT3 starting to close up. Cohen Kottman was he was 0.2 of a second quicker on that last lap than Carbagnani, and the BMW is still sticking with the Mercedes here as they start to lap the Porsches as well.
Yeah, I've just been watching Cohen for a few laps now, and he's definitely started putting the hammer down, and yeah, he's started to close the gap right down to Massimo in front of him, and that will be interesting to see what happens.
Driving the Mercedes driving the BMW in the 12 hours of Sebring. Did you drive the BMW in the 12 hours of Sebring? I've got that right.
Yep.
What was the tyre life like? Was it better than the Mercedes and the Audis? Just trying to rule out possible pit stops for tyres in this IMSA race.
I would say it was close. I would say when it comes to tyre wear and tyre wear, I would say the BMW was more kind to its tyres. With the Mercedes, it can be kind to its tyres, but from my experience driving the Mercedes, it just comes down to driving style and how hard you are in the tyres. And I've always found if you drive carefully in the Mercedes, you can make the tyres last a bit longer.
You've driven both, the Mercedes and the BMW, in 2 of the endurance races. Which car did you think suited your driving style better?
I would have to say the Mercedes.
And there you go, and BMW just losing touch now with Carbagnani. A pretty poor lap there from Cohen Klotman, just as we focused on him there, and now out of touch really. Carbagnani 1.5 seconds up the road. However, the traffic does ebb and flow in this race, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cohen Klotman is back with him. We have got every single driver still running in the race, which is quite an achievement here in the IMSA Sportscar Series. All 28 drivers still running. Andy Pers in 28th place, he is still going as well. He's just coming out of turn 10B, so every single car running here in the early going. and with 53 minutes to go, it won't be too long before we start to see the pit stops. Third race meeting then of the IMSA Sportscar Series here on Apex Racing TV at Road Atlanta. Simon Grossman leading the way in the early going here. Simon Grossman second in the championship, teammate of Dirk Reinhardt, who has had a pretty quiet race today. Last week in the IMSA Sportscar Series he had a horrid bit of luck. Just trying to remember where we were, but I do remember he was in a good position to get a strong result. We were at Silverstone and got collided with two Porsches that had crashed on the front straight at Silverstone, and that ended his race, and he was on for a second position, and it was an absolute disaster for Dirk Reinhardt. However, he's come back strong this week. He's put in some good results during the week and is now leading the championship, and yeah, doing a strong performance at the moment. Ryan, he's not in the lead, however he's gained a position since the start and running his own race, currently in 4th position.
Yeah, he seems to be not had anyone to battle with. He's not had any issues in the race so far. He's just out there on his own, turning laps, and yeah, I would say I would prefer to be in his position, being on your own, because you don't have to concentrate on things in front of you and behind you at the same time. You can just focus on one thing, and I've always found that it seems to be better. And yeah, he's having a good race so far.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it'd be like to be battling a car in front or behind you and having to lap the traffic at the same time as well. Dirk Reinhardt, 2.9 seconds to him, to Marco Acciacono in front of him, and 6 seconds back to Thibaut Vernice, the Frenchman, in 5th position. So Dirk Reinhardt, solid position at the moment, in 4th place in the Daytona Prototypes, championship leader going into this race meeting as well. And yeah, quite a way now away from his teammate, 10 seconds last time around as Simon Grossman comes around the final corner to start lap 20 of the race. It's a 1:15 as he's starting to lap the Porsches again. Still seeing if we've got any more battles on the circuit. We're returning to that battle in the German GT3s again between Nessie and Hugo Prato. Prato was able to gain quite a few seconds on the Mercedes behind him a few laps ago. However, it looks like that Nessie and Kiesoglu have been turning the times in, and they're now right onto the rear of the TNT Racing Audi once again, going through turn 10B, up over the hill, under the bridge, and plunging back down the hill. And that downhill section, Ryan, it's very easy to lose the cars for that section, especially in these very powerful German GT3s, as here comes Nessie up the inside into turn 1, and that looks like it's going to be a position, and it is. That is 5th position. And will Kiesoglu try and follow him through? Not just yet. But yeah, good move there, up the inside into turn 1. We said at the beginning of the show that wasn't going to be one of the main overtaking points on the circuit, but yeah, Nessie, Ryan, made that look pretty easy.
Yeah, he got a good run on the exit of the final corner, and they managed to carry some speed on the downhill section, head on the start finish line, and yeah, he managed to get a good run on Hugo, and he managed to get the move done into turn 1, and yeah, that was a textbook perfect again.
And now it could be the turn of Nestoras Kiesoglu. Mercedes versus Audi here, TNT Racing driver for Hugo Prato. But it looks like the Audi might just have it here. They're very evenly matched in terms of straight line speed, the Audi and the Mercedes, compared to something like the BMW, reaching over 250 kilometers per hour going into this chicane. And now up over the hill, and Hugo Prato staying strong for the time being in 6th place now, down 2 positions from where he started, the Iberian. And Nestoras Kiesoglu up 1 position, some of the biggest movers in the field today. Thibaut Vernice up 2 positions in the Daytona Prototype, started 7th, is now 5th. In the Porsches, we saw him in the early going making the positions. Matthias Schoger up 3 positions inside the opening 20 or so laps. And other gainers, Michel Ricci, Tuominen at 1 position as well. Not too many overtakes we're seeing today at this circuit at Road Atlanta, Ryan.
Yeah, it does. Excuse me. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be many overtakes, or there is some overtakes, but not as many as I thought there would be around Road Atlanta. Yeah, it seems to be that type of track that you can pass, but it's basically you've got to be either have a big, well, I won't say that on the broadcast, but yeah, big, you know what, and or you've just got to have a bit of luck. So yeah, Road Atlanta, it's hard for passing, but it never fails to provide any action.
Big coconuts, big melons, you get the idea.
Yeah.
Going out of out of turn 6 goes Simon Grossman. He's got big power underneath his Corvette Daytona prototype. He's got a 7-second lead. Joseph Burton Harris, ever since that encounter with the lap traffic, has had no issues whatsoever. Burton Harris now in 2nd place, quite a bit of a distance ahead of Marco Archdiacono, Dirk Reinhardt in 4th, and Thibaut Vernice in 5th position. Carbagnani still has got Cohen Klotman pretty close at hand. That BMW, it's like that pesky fly just won't get shaken off him. And Nespolino in 3rd, Blascavals in 4th in the German GT3s, and 5th is Nessie. But still, Hugo Preto and Kia Soglu, they continue their scrap going into the double right-hander here at turn 6 and turn 7. And then for this slight kink, and you see there on the exit, Hugo Preto just has a slight loss of traction there. And now up to turn 9, the long right-hand kink, and then into turn A and turn B. And I think Hugo Preto is close enough to pick up a bit of slipstream off Nessie, and that might just be enough to keep him ahead of the Mercedes behind going into the chicane at turns 10A and 10B. And I'll tell you who is making a move, Paul Darling. He's just gone round the outside of Mika Lurky into the chicane, and that is one Audi on the move. That is another TNT racing car, I think it might be. And yeah, that is Paul Darling off a position and up into 8th place. Mika Lurky dropping down the order as the race seems to go on. Ryan started in 7th position, down 2 positions now. He might have to hope on the pit stop strategy to try and get those positions back.
Yeah, it looks like Mika is maybe not as quick or not as on the pace as some of the other guys in front of him. So I would say his best chance of getting a maybe a top 6 or top 5 result in the German GT3 class is maybe through pit stops and maybe just taking fuel and not taking tyres. But yeah, that's his best chance, I would say.
And speaking of the pit stops, we haven't got too long till we start to see them. 45 minutes to go in the race then, and that is your typical standard IMSA race. So we've got the half an hour out of the way, and some of the main talking points. Simon Grossman already, and the pit stops are beginning in earnest, I think. Cohen Klotman, 2nd place in the German GT3s, into the pit lane, and the BMW, the only BMW in the race today, pitting before everyone else. I think this might be a roll of the dice. Ryan, I think he's realised that he isn't able to get past Carbagnani in a straight line, so he's going to have to get into the pits and let the strategy do the work.
Yeah, I think he was being held up a little bit by the GT3 leader, and he decided to pit early and try and maybe go for an undercut, as they would call it, and see if it pays off. And yeah, we'll just need to wait and see if it does.
Revs rise. It is a bit of a long stop here for Klotman. It says 20.9 on my screen, but I don't agree with that. But yeah, it is a 20.9 second stop. Yeah, he's on his way now. 43.4 pit lane time here, and Cohen Klotman emerges at the rear of the German GT3s and puts him into some reasonably clear air. He's got the Porsches behind him now. So he shouldn't have to worry too much about any traffic at all. The only car in front of him is a Daytona prototype. So Cohen Klotman might have pulled off a masterstroke here. We'll wait to see when the next lot of German GT3s come into the pits. Over the hill he goes, and doesn't look like anyone else is coming into the pits just yet. Andy Percy was at the back of the field anyway in 28th place. He's also been in. 36.9 second stop for him. Pit lane time, I should say. 13.5 second stop, and that pit stop was made 5 laps ago. Mika Lurky has decided to come into the pits. We saw him earlier getting overtaken by Paul Darling, and he's now decided to make the trip into the pits. 70 km/h pit lane speed, and up on the jacks he goes. And looks like just fuel for these guys, the German GT3s anyway. 20.9 second stop for Cohen Klopman. We'll see if Michalurki is able to beat that. R11, Michalurki driving for the Mercedes, the pink and black car there. Maybe purple and black actually I should say. 21.7 second stop I should say. And Michalurki will definitely rejoin at the rear of the Daytona prototypes. In fact, Michel Ritchie has just got by him as well. However, the Mercedes shouldn't waste any time in getting past that. And then he too should have relative clear air, the same to similar to Cohen Klopman. Could be seeing I think people have seen it by now, an Australian Grand Prix strategy here by the likes of Cohen Klopman and Michalurki. They've realised that they've got this clear air between themselves and the Porsches behind and the Daytona prototypes in front, and they might as well utilise it. Might have lost Ryan again. I don't know, his mic's playing issues. Hello.
Hello, yeah, I'm just sorry, I had to keep Dasher off because my cat keeps jumping on me, so I had to throw it out the room.
There you go, commentary. The commentary issues here, or the commentary cat we could even call it here on Apex Racing TV. I can't argue with you, Ryan. I've got this. I do have similar issues in the past, but yeah, about 24 then. Not too many cars coming into the pits high on this lap. Only 3 drivers have elected to pit so far, with 41 minutes to go in the race. And Michalurki, I said it'd be easy for him to get past Michel Ritchie, our Porsche leader. Doesn't seem to be the case, and he could lose a few seconds here, especially if the Porsche is slow through this S's section, which it looks like it is. Michel Ritchie didn't get the best line there going into the S's, but finally Lurky gets up the inside, and that was very close.
Yeah, that was heart and mouth stuff there for a moment. I thought that they were both going to spin off into the wall, but yeah, both managed to survive through the S's.
3 cars in on this lap. Marco Diacono in the Daytona prototypes in from 3rd. Luigi Nespolino in from 2nd in the German GT3s, and Jason Marical in from 9th position in the rough C, not the rough C specs. That's last season. The Porsche 911s. Marco Diacono then, what's he going to do? He's decided to pit early as well, maybe for the clear air like Cohen Klopman has done so far. Away goes Luigi Nespolino, 21.6 second stop there for the Mercedes Team GT driver there in the German GT3s. Marco Diacono first at the Daytona prototypes in, and he does a 20.6 second stop, and that is him out in 7th place. There's been an overtake. Kia Soglu has got past Hugo Preto, and Preto has dropped a bit back actually, so I'm inclined to think this might be a mistake. And just looking back on the replay, Ryan, it looks like he was up the inside of one of the Porsches. That was Nick Thiessen, made a bit of contact and got on the grass, and that was what allowed Kia Soglu through and up into 4th.
Yeah, I'm just watching the replay now, and it looks like Hugo just went to dive up the inside when Nick was slightly in front of him heading into the corner. So yeah, I would have to put the blame onto Hugo for that incident, unfortunately. Well then, this is going to be interesting. Joseph Burton Harris comes into the pits. He is reacting immediately to Marco Diacono. Diacono on his outlap at the moment. 20.6 second stop. Joseph Burton Harris has just hit his marks, and it's going to be interesting to see who is going to emerge in 2nd place. What has Marco Diacono done on the outlap? 13 seconds, 14. If it's going to be pretty close here. Marco Diacono going for the final corner. 20.6 second stop. Burton Harris away. He's at the end of the pit lane now. Who's going to have the position? I can't see Burton Harris. He's leaving the pit lane now. And you were right, Ryan. Marco Diacono leapfrogs Joseph Burton Harris and is up into effectively 2nd place in the Daytona prototypes now. Brilliant master stroke and strategy. Yeah, absolutely. I was watching Joseph when he came into the pits, and I think he lost a couple of maybe 2 or 3 seconds because he overshot his pit box and he had to reverse into his pit box, so that cost him 2 or 3 seconds.
Our leader is in. Simon Grossman in the Daytona prototypes comes into the pit lane. No problems for him. He could stop and have a drink, go to the toilet as well, and probably could still emerge in the lead. Dirk Reinhardt in second place, also in, well, second place on track anyway. Piazza has got moved up to third because Thibaut Vernies has come into the pits, and Piazza's now in the lead actually because he's one of the drivers not to make a pit stop just yet. Dirk Reinhardt also in, Vernies in, David Weiss also in. So the only Daytona prototypes yet to pits are Danilo Piazza and Chris Pence. Hugo Prato is off and out. He's in the tyre barrier at the S's. We saw, oh dear, just looking back on a replay, Ryan, he's going into what is turn 3. Takes too much of the curb. Oh, tries to correct it, which he does, but unfortunately runs out of track, runs out of grass, and hits the tyre barrier.
Yeah, I'm just watching the replay as well, and headed into turn 1 on the exit, he just lost the rear end and spun round and hit the wall. And it looks like he spun round on the exit of the entry of the S's and just does the wall again, and that's it, race over.
Well, he's towed back to the pits, and yeah, that is the end of the day for Hugo Prato. He might be able to repair the car and get back out, but it looked like there was no way of him getting it out of the tyre barrier there. Yeah, last 2 cars in the Daytona prototypes. Well, not in, they haven't pitted yet, but Danilo Piazza on his way at the moment. Simon Grosson emerged in second place, which will quickly become the lead. Marco Diacono in third, fourth Joseph Burton Harris, fifth is Dirk Reinhardt, sixth Vernies, seventh David Weiss, and eighth Chris Pence. Paul Darling is in the German GT3s. I believe that is Hugo Prato's teammate. Yes, it is. So he's just come in for his pits now. He was in fifth when he came in, but I think he might lose a few positions as a result of the cars behind having made their stop. But this German GT3 strategy is becoming very intriguing now, because unlike the Burton Harris Diacono pit stop battle, Ryan, Massimo Carbignani, he's staying out. He's now onto his 29th lap of the race. Klopman 6 laps now into his new stint. And Carbignani deciding to run long here.
Yeah, it could be Massimo's maybe trying to stretch out the fuel as long as possible, and when it comes to doing his pit stop, he doesn't have to take as much fuel at his stop as maybe some of the other guys like Cohen had to do at his pit stop, because with him pitting early. So it could work out, it might not work out, but it's just cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Well, it took just over half an hour, but we finally had a car out of the race, and yeah, that is Hugo Prato. So credit to the top split here today. Only one car so far out of the race. No pit stops as of yet on this lap. I can tell you the German GT3 cars that have been in of Cohen Klopman, who's currently in 5th place at the moment. Luigi Nespolino, he's 4 laps into his new stint. Paul Darling, we saw him just in a moment ago. Mika Lurkey also in. And Azam Stalmassi also in. Just noticing the times, the drivers that pitted earlier on have done 21-second stops. The drivers that have come in recently in the 20s, and that's that fuel, Ryan, just that little time difference where you don't need to take as much fuel so you can get to the end of the race.
Yeah, with the pitting early, you have to take a little bit more fuel to get to the finish, but if you pit later, you don't have to take as much fuel, which means you save a little bit of time in the pit stops, maybe 1 or 2 seconds, which could be all the difference.
That's all here in the Porsches between Tuomian and Nick Thiessen. These two scrapping over 7th and 8th in class, 24th and 25th overall. They were side by side down the back straight, but looks like they've just separated a little bit now as they go through the final corner at turn 12. There's Marco Diacono lapping him, and Joseph Burton Harris keeping him at arm's length. What are the lap times like? Marco Diacono 15.6, 14.3 for Joseph Burton Harris. So Diacono did have the advantage straight out of the pits, but oh no, Joseph Burton Harris, dear me, that was hard on your master.
Yeah, that had me clenching, that's for sure.
Oh, he would have as well. He saw the gap, went for it, but it was closing, and he was just able to get through in time. And Joseph Burton Harris, that could have been a critical moment in the race. He didn't want Marco Diacono to escape at all. He was 0.6 of a second quicker on that last lap and couldn't afford to let the man currently in third place, break away. And by getting past that Porsche at that moment in time, it means that he's now able to stick with him and is closing in some more. Probably close enough actually to pick up a bit of slipstream now going down the back straight. Ryan, Marco Stiano quick out of the pits. Burton Harris just closing. The gap's coming down visually now going into the chicane.
Yeah, I'm just watching the Burton Harris now, and he is I'm watching his onboard, and he's absolutely thrashing this car around every corner that you can think of, and he's just getting heaps of time under braking.
Well, Joseph Burton Harris from Australia or New Zealand, Australasian driver, and doing a fantastic job here in the Daytona prototype. You can see he's taking a lot of curbs. He is absolutely on a mission to get past Marco Arcidiacono here. 15.2 for Arcidiacono, 14.6, another 0.6 of a second taken out, and you can see Arcidiacono running wide. Maybe this is tyre wear, I don't know, but Arcidiacono really struggling on the exit of the S's, and now they're coming up to the Porsches. Up the inside goes Joseph Burton Harris, but the door is slammed firmly shut, and now they've got to get past Shafranca here, and they do so pretty easily. But now you can see that Joseph Burton Harris is in the slipstream, and we could see an overtake here for third place as we go over the hill and down the back straight. Right.
Yeah, Burton Harris got a terrific run on the exit of the last right-hander, and he might be able to pass Massimo into the final corner, and indeed he does.
There you go. So order resumed. That was a good few laps for Arcidiacono. Good pit stop strategy as well, but it just wasn't enough to hold back Joseph Burton Harris, and he is now up into third position. However, he's been held up by the Porsches. Here comes Arcidiacono into the first corner. They're going to lap. That is Gorski, and that is Quintana as well that they've just lapped, and Arcidiacono nearly closing onto the back and nearly getting the overtake redone, going down the front straight into the first corner. Lap 35 now of the of round 3 of the IMSA Sportscar Series, and great battle there between Joseph Burton Harris and Marco Arcidiacono. However, I think Joseph Burton Harris from this moment forward should start to edge away as we get into the final half an hour of the race. And I'll tell you what, the strategy is just becoming more and more intriguing. We had just over a dozen cars come in earlier on, and now we're waiting for the next, or for pretty much everyone else, to come in and make their pit stop as well. I can tell you that we had only 2 cars come in the Porsches, as Marco Arcidiacono again closes in through the slipstream. I said Burton Harris would edge away, but Arcidiacono back on the inside into the chicane, so shows you what I know. And Marco Arcidiacono going for it, and yeah, the Italian takes the second place back going into the chicane. But here comes Joseph Burton Harris through the final corner. He's going to pick up the slipstream on the exit of turn 12. But going into the first corner, he's going to take that second place back again. But Marco Arcidiacono round the outside. There was an Audi off there in the background as well. It's just retired back to the pits. And Arcidiacono is able to hold on to it.
Yeah, this is fantastic racing. Yeah. Road Atlanta, who says Road Atlanta's boring? It's one of the best tracks for multi-class racing, I feel, and this battle right here between Marco and Burton Harris just proves it.
Well, it hosts Petit Le Mans, and it's hosting a brilliant race here as Burton Harris now goes back up the inside into turn 6. It's now into turn 7, onto the back straight. They've got a Porsche and a Mercedes in front of them, and Matthias Schoger and Jorge Blascavals. Can Joseph Burton Harris use slipstream in his favour here? I think that's what he's trying to do, getting up to the rear of that Porsche. Now he's going to duck out the slipstream, and I think that's what's going to cost Marco there. That is definitely going to mean that Burton Harris, for the time being at least, is going to be in that third position. Danilo Piazza finally comes into the pits after a 36-lap stint in his Daytona prototype. That's going to mean that Simon Grossman goes back to the lead. This battle will now become second position between Joseph Burton Harris and Marco Arcidiacono, and Danilo Piazza stretching that stint out. Interesting to see if he's able to gain any positions out of that. Dirk Reinhardt goes through. Thibaut Vernies should also go through as well, so I don't think Piazza I should say, is not going to gain too many positions out of this. But yeah, that's one of the pit stops done. Chris Pence yet to make a pit stop. Now here comes Marco Arcidiacono again. Burton Harris held up by another Porsche. That was Marcel Fassbender. Shoga's teammates that we were just lapping on the back straight a lap ago. And this time there's no cars for Joseph Burton-Harris to pick up a slipstream off. So he could be a sitting duck here as we come up the back straight. Denying Marco Archdiacono's got some horsepower under his Daytona prototype. 260, 265, 270 kilometers per hour here down the back straight. Archdiacono ducking out of the move. Didn't want to get it done there. He was possibly trying to look to the outside, but Joseph Burton-Harris, Ryan, he was able to take that racing line.
Yeah, basically it looked like Marco was trying to get a run on the Burton-Harris, but he just basically ran out straight, and Burton-Harris managed to keep hold of that position.
Well, now it's going to get interesting. Massimo Carbignani coming into the pits. Also Michel Ricci, the two leaders of the German GT3s and the Porsche classes respectively. Jorge Blascovals also in. Nestoris Kiasoglu in as well. Where's Cohen Klopman in all this? He is heading into the chicane now. He has got a Porsche just in front of him in Aero Tuomian, and this might hold him up here. What's Carbignani done? 21 seconds he's out.
Leaving the pits.
There you go, and that is going to be a lot of time gained actually as Klopman gets up into second position. Massimo Carbignani taking that late pit stop and has pulled out quite a bit of an advantage now over the BMW.
Yeah, that bit of traffic seemed to cost Cohen, and yeah, it's cost him dearly, and Massimo has managed to get back out of the pits in front of him, and yeah, it'll be a hard task for Cohen to try and catch him now. So I think the only thing that could maybe help Cohen is maybe DP's lapping Massimo and maybe holding him up. But yeah, as I say, it'll be a hard job for Cohen to try and catch him before the end of the race.
The Daytona prototypes have all completed their pit stops now. Chris Pence finished his pit stop on that last lap. We have still got we've finished all the pit stops as well in the German GT3s. We're running through that order in a moment. We're running through that order now actually as we await the majority of the Porsches to come in. Massimo Carbignani then returns to the lead in the German GT3s. Second is Cohen Klopman. Third is Luigi Nespolino. Fourth is Jorge Blascovals. Fifth is Nessie, and those two are very close going into the chicane at turns 10A and 10B. Two Mercedes going at it here. Blascovals just started his stints. This is his outlap completed, and Marco Nessie, he's been on his stint now for 3 laps. So Jorge Blascovals just getting back into the rhythm after that pit stop. When you've been running for so long in an endurance race like this, Ryan, once you've made that pit stop, is it pretty difficult to get back to the rhythm that you were in before you made the pit stop?
It depends in a way. I mean, I always find I can get back into a rhythm after my pit stop. It depends if you're in a battle or not. If you're not in a battle, I guess it makes it easier to settle down and get back into a rhythm and back into the groove. But if you're in a battle, it makes it maybe a little bit more difficult to settle down, because you have to focus on a lot of things. For example, checking what's in front of you and who's behind you, checking the mirrors as well. So yeah, it can make it difficult and make it quite tense at times.
And it could be starting to get a little bit tense between Blascovals here and Marco Nessie going into the chicane. Closing up under braking there, the Team GT driver, and now powering up the hill under the bridge at turn 11, and now into turn 12 to complete what for the German GT3s is lap 37. Let's see what the lap times are like. Jorge Blascovals does a 20.3. 20.3 as well for Nessie, and you can see they run pretty deep into that first corner. Don't know whether that was just Nessie following Blascovals wide, but yeah, they are definitely on the edge here with 24 minutes to go in the race. Only cars that have been in the Porsches have been Michel Ricci, our Porsche leader, nearly said rough again there. Andres Quintana also has been in. Jason Marical in as well, and Andy Pers also in. One car out, that was Hugo Prato, and that was that Audi that we saw up at the S's in turn 3 a few moments ago. So yeah, he is 28th place, 10th place in the German GT3s, and his race for the day done. Now Nessie has got a Daytona prototype overtaking him there. That is our overall leader, car 5, Simon Grossman, splitting the two German GT3s there, going in and out. Shows the confidence that Simon Grossman's got in his ability and in the car as well. He's just running away with it here, Ryan. 12-second lead now over Joseph Burton Harris.
Yeah, Simon's just basically dominating this race. He's done an absolutely fantastic job so far, and has managed to keep out of the trouble. And his precision when dealing with the traffic has just been spot on. And yeah, it looks like he could be on his way to a dominant victory.
22 minutes to go as he laps another of the Porsches. That was the Euro 2 million. And this is the start of really what is a tour of America here on the IMSA Sportscar Series. After this race meeting, we head to the Indianapolis Road Course, which I think is still the layout the Formula 1 cars used nearly 10 years ago, the last Grand Prix in Indianapolis. Then after that we head to Watkins Glen, the classic boot layout, then Barber Motorsports Park, and then a Sebring, night race at Sebring as well. And at the beginning of May, we are at the Circuit of the Americas for a 45-minute race there as well. Of course, all of this will be on Apex Racing TV every Sunday at 5:45 British Summer Time, 4:45 GMT, and 6:45 Central European Time. And those tracks that we're going to, Ryan, pretty classic American circuits, minus Circuit of the Americas, of course, but the likes of Watkins Glen International, Sebring, which we were racing in the 12 hours a few weeks ago. Pretty hard tracks to get right.
Yeah, I've always found that tracks such as Sebring, Watkins Glen, yeah, they're difficult tracks to get to grips with if you've never raced there before. But once you get the hang of tracks such as them, there's such a joy to race around, and especially in multi-class racing. And if you can nail a good lap around there, it's such an awesome feel around those tracks. And yeah, probably some of the best tracks for multi-class racing.
Nick Thiessen has been in and out, 8.4 second stop. Now, it's just come back to me from what we were told last week is that the Porsche with its fuel is very, very close to completing a race distance. I think it's only about 2 laps short of completing the full 45 minutes. Of course, here in the 75-minute race, they've got to fill up to get near the end, and hence why we're seeing such quick pit stop times in the Porsche 911s. 8.4 second stop for Thiessen, and now Marcel Fassbender and Matthias Schoger both come in. 2 teammates. They were second and third before our leader Michel Ricci came in. Where will they be after this pit stop though? It is Fassbender away in 15 seconds. Not as quick as Nick Thiessen's pit stop, to be fair, and 15 seconds for Matthias Schoger as well. So this should all mean that Michel Ricci takes a lead back. Schoger is going to emerge. Oh no, that's gone horribly wrong, and that's Marco Arcidiacono. He's taken Marco Arcidiacono out of the race. Absolute disaster here on the exit of turn 1. It's also a disaster for Marcel Fassbender as well. He gets going. Marco Arcidiacono should get going as well. He's waiting for the field to go by. But what a moment there, Ryan. And just looking on the replay, he is exiting the pits, and oh dear, he moves across to the blend line where the Porsche is rejoining.
Yeah, I've just watched the replay now, and yeah, that was just, I'm sorry to say, that was just pathetic from Marco. And he come across a car like that at exiting the pits it's just pure stupidity, and I would have to place the full blame on Marco, unfortunately.
Well, these drivers do have spotters. They do have the option to turn it off, by the way, but they do have spotters in the car, and they would have been telling that a car would have been leaving the pits on the right. And yeah, Marco Arcidiacono doing a Michael Schumacher on it there at Canada 98. He took out Frentzen on that occasion, was given a penalty for that, and if we did have penalties here on iRacing, I think Marco might have got one as well. Out of all that, Marco Arcidiacono has dropped down to 5th place now in class. Marcel Fassbender has dropped down to 4th. Might become 3rd once Thurmian has made his pit stop. Marco Arcidiacono into the pit lane as well. Marcel Fassbender also in. So They've both been hit by a double punishment, both of them also in now to serve a second pit stop and get those repairs done. And it is a shame for Marco Diacono. We saw how well that pit stop strategy worked for him earlier on in the race, but that move was questionable on the exit of that first corner, and a bit of action there with 20 minutes to go. Danilo Piazza's also come into the pits for a second time, so either he's not got enough fuel to make it home, or maybe have picked up damage somewhere. The car looks pretty clean to me, so it might be a problem with fuel. But yeah, Piazza coming into the pits for a second time here, and he pitted from 7th place. Well, after the Porsches have finished their stop, we can now run you through the order. It's Michel Ricci leading the way. Matthias Schoger has gained 2 positions out of that pit stop window, due to the demise of his teammate in Fassbender, and also getting past, I think it was, I don't know who it was actually, but yeah, he's up into 2nd place now in class, Matthias Schoger, and he must be loving that. Up 5 positions, definitely the biggest mover in the race so far. And Dimitri Gorsicki up 3 positions to 3rd place. He seems to have pulled off a masterstroke in this pit stop window as well. So yeah, Porsche's finishing their pit stops now, and with 17 minutes to go, Ryan, it's the blast to the finish.
Yeah, all the pit stops are done, so it's just a case of keeping the car on track, keeping it out of trouble, and not having any issues. And yeah, just getting the car to the finish. And yeah, I think if all these guys get to the finish, that'll be a pretty good achievement. And yeah, I've been quite surprised that there hasn't been as many crashes as I expected, which I'm quite shocked about.
When you were doing the 24 Hours of Daytona, which shift were you put in charge of? Were you doing the night race, or were you doing during the daytime shifts?
Well, I was at work during excuse me, I was at work during the day, so yeah, I was put in charge of night stints, which was on one hand good fun, but on the other hand, after I finished my night stints, my body was just basically dead, and yeah, my body was dead and just aching over. So yeah, but finishing in 2nd place, it made the pain worth it.
And the Team Cheese and Wine team being strong there in the 24 Hours of Daytona. Here's to more success. I don't know how they'll be getting on in the BSR Porsches. They did have 1 race at Brands Hatch Indy on Thursday night before the reverse grid issues that we mentioned at the top of the show began to plague the series. So we hope to be back at Brands Hatch Indy next week to complete what we started in both the BSR-TC Pro Series and in the BSR Porsche Cup. Sam Kumo, our man on the cameras, will be there as well. He'll also be in the iRacing Porsche Cup, which will be tomorrow on Apex Racing TV. That along with, oh no, that is it on its own, of course. Yeah, next week the ASRC returns for its 4th race meeting of the season. But yeah, tomorrow at 8:45. It is 8:45 British Summer Time. It is the next race meeting of the iRacing Porsche Cup, and make sure you can join us for that one. Apex Racing TV. And Marco Diacono dropping down the order like a stone now after being in the pits, and I think he has exited the session, so we can cross him off. And he is a retiree. He joins Marcel Fassbender out of the race, as well as Hugo Preto, who we saw go earlier on. And I think Paul Darling might also be out, along with Andy Pers. He has just retired back to the pits. What happened to Andy? Let's just quickly see. Car looks pretty wrecked. Looks like he lost it on his own, car 26, on the exit of the 90-degree right-hander at turn 7. Ryan, it looks pretty easy to do. It's probably one of the slowest parts on the circuit, but the accident seemed to happen for quite a long time. Actually, it's quite a bit of a way away from the exit of turn 7.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the replay now, and it just looks like he lost it on his own. Just having a look to see what happened to him. Yeah, it just looks like he put on too much power on the exit of the corner and just basically spun into the wall, and that was it. Race over.
Entering the closing stages of the race here in round 3 of the IMSA Sportscar Series here at Road Atlanta in the United States. Adam Bath here with Ryan Walker in the comms box and Sam Kumo on the cameras. It's been a bit of a slow burner of the race here, really. The first half an hour, pretty much of a procession, but then the pit stops as always continue to liven up this series, and we saw that in abundance. Strategies being mastered, a few collisions as well, especially on pit exit as well, and we've had a brilliant second half of the race, and we've just got 13 minutes to go. Simon Grossman leads the Daytona Prototypes, Massimo Corbignani leads the German GT3s, and Michel Ricci leads the Porsche 911 class. Just seeing what battles we've got in the field then as we start to tick towards the end of the race. Andreas Quintana and Dimitri Gorsaki. This is over third and fourth in the Porsches. Gorski there with the grey and black and white Porsche there, and Quintana not too far behind. Last time around 23 zeros for both of them. And what we'll probably see is these guys following each other for the rest of the race, as we've been seeing over the last few weeks since the Porsche came onto iRacing, is that these Porsches can run pretty close together, but it is pretty difficult to get overtakes done in these cars. And Quintana, he'll try and get as close as he can. It's quite interesting as well, Ryan, really, because the Porsche doesn't really have too many bits hanging off the car. It's just got that huge spoiler on the back, and that seems to be the issue why these cars can't really seem to get close enough and get an overtake done.
The Porsche seems to be, it doesn't have any excuse me, it doesn't have any, like, it doesn't have as much downforce as say the GT3 cars or the Daytona prototypes. It's just basically a standard car, and yeah, when they're close together, it seems to be difficult to make a pass in the Porsche. But yeah, it seems to be the way the car is. But I haven't really done enough laps in the cars to really comment on it. So maybe someone in the chat would be able to give a bit more detail than me.
Battle here between Blaskovals and Nessie. This seems to just carry on and carry on. These two Mercedes going at it here, going through the chicane at turns 10A and 10B, up over the top of the hill. What were the lap times like last time around? 20.6 for Nessie, 20.5 for Blaskovals. We'll see what they're like this time as we come through turn 12 to start. Lap 48 in the German GT3s, 20.7 for Blaskovals, 20.6. Another tenth of a second getting taken out there by Marco Nessie. Up through turn 2 and into turn 3. You can see the car squirreling about under braking there as we go into the S's. That is where we lost Hugo Preto earlier on in the race. Now down the hill we go. I can tell you that Marcel Fassbender is back on track after his collision with Marco Archdiacono earlier on. But this battle between the two Mercedes, between Jorge Blaskovals, the Iberian, and Marco Nessie, the Italian, is probably the closest battle we've got on track at the moment. Having a little look there into turn 7 is Marco Nessie. And now on the exit of the right-hander, these Mercedes SLS AMG GT3s building up speed as we go over the hill. 220 kilometers per hour. You can see they go past the DRS line there for when the Formula 1 cars race here on iRacing, of course. No planned race yet in the actual Formula 1 calendar. But Nessie having just a little bit of a look to the inside. Is that merely to just distract Jorge Blaskovals in the mirrors, Ryan?
Yeah, I would say he's just moving out a little bit, not to try and make a move, but just to let him know that he's there, and just basically try some tactics and try and distract him.
Over the top of the hill then, and you can see that Nessie's Team GT colleague in Danilo Piazza is just starting to lap these guys now, and that's really broken apart these two going through the S's into turn 5 now. You can see that Blaskovals does get very out of shape on the exit. We're really there, and yeah, that is Danilo Piazza through now past both of them, and it seems to have allowed Nessie to close back in just a little bit going on to the back straight. Just going to see if there's any other close battles going on in the field. as we enter the closing stages of the race. Less than 10 minutes to go now, actually. Just over 8.5 minutes to go in the race. And everyone is pretty spread out apart from those 2 GT cars. And that's David Weiss that's just put himself in between Jorge Blascavels and Marco Nessi. Should get up the inside of the Mercedes now, going through the final corner. Indeed he does. So that's another lap put on those guys. This time a 21.0 done by Jorge Blascavels. And 21.2 for Marco Nessi. Of course, next week we head to Indianapolis, the road course section. Definitely not as undulating as this one, Ryan, it being in an infield on an oval. But it's a track that I enjoy racing on. It's tight, it's quite twisty as well, but then you've got that flat out section. More on that in a moment, actually. As hit up the inside comes Marco Nessi. That's going to be an overtake for 4th position. Blascavels isn't going to give up though, but up the inside into turn 7. That should be a done deal. And see, going onto the curbs on the exit, that is him through into 4th place now.
Blascavels could have a run on him though. Yeah, he's got a run on him, he's all inside.
Looks like he's back through then. Up the inside into turn 10A. And he is back through again, so that is Marco Nessi up into 4th place now. We'll see if Jorge Blascavels can fight back, but just before that happened, Ryan, Indianapolis, your thoughts on that circuit?
Indianapolis, I've not really raced there much, to be honest. I've done some laps around the track, but for the laps I've done around there, it's probably one of the... Some people say it's a boring track, but I have to say it's probably one of my favourite tracks for doing these kind of races around, just because it's such a good challenge, and got a mixture of different corners. You've got some high-speed corners, some slow-speed corners, and also you've got the long straight as well. So if you're behind someone, you could get a good slipstream on them.
Thought we'd lost Andres Quintana then for a second, but no, he's fine. I just saw him disappear off the timing screen, but he's back. Yeah, Indianapolis last season, we saw a whole lot of issues happening as the leaders ran out of fuel towards the end of the race. And that was all down to the fact that we ran an extra lap. That was really unexpected. We had about 5 seconds left when the leaders crossed the line, and everyone had to go around for another lap. And yeah, definitely made for some interesting finishes, especially in the German GT3s, who definitely suffered as a result of that extra lap. 5 minutes to go then in this race. Not too long for Simon Grossman before he takes the victory. Started off this new IMSA Sportscar Series season a few weeks ago. Here now we're on round 3 of the season. Started out at Laguna Seca, saw plenty of brilliant racing there. Then we went to Silverstone, the Grand Prix circuit last week, and now we're here at Road Atlanta for the 75-minute race. We will have another 75-minute race later in the season. It will be the final round at the end of May at Road America. It seems to be at the circuits with the road in the title, but yeah, that'll be when we have our next 75-minute race. Not too long to go. Running through the biggest movers one more time since the pit stops are finished. Matthias Schoger, we talked about him earlier after the Porsches completed their pit stop. He is definitely the biggest mover, up 7 positions from where he started. Also positions, Eero Tuominen up 5 positions. That being said, the positions he's gained are down to retirements. Only 1 car behind him is still running, and that is Marcel Fassbender. Also at 5 positions we've got Dimitri Gorski. And 4 positions gained for Michel Ricciard, Porsche leader. And most of them are probably down to retirements as well. So, and 3 positions gained for Thibaut Vernies in the Daytona prototypes. He's had a good race today. And Dirk Reinhardt, 2 positions gained That's good. A good job for the championship leader. And also, he's Simon Grossman's teammate. Running through the top 5 then in each class with 3 minutes to go in the race. Simon Grossman leads Joseph Burton-Harris by 12 seconds. And it's 11 seconds back to Dirk Reinhardt in 3rd. 23 seconds back to Thibaut Vernies in 4th. And then a further 21 seconds to David Weiss in 5th. Massimo Carbagnani, his Mercedes is really bossing it here since the pit stops. 9-second lead to Cohen Klopman. Then 8 seconds to Luigi Nespolino in 3rd. And it's 9-second gap to Marco Nessi in 4th. He was able to get ahead of Jorge Blascaval. There's only 0.3 of a second between those two. They're probably going to be together for the rest of the race. And then it is 6 seconds to Nestoras Kiasoglu in 6th. Michel Ricci leading the way in the Porsches, 13 seconds ahead of Matthias Schoger. And it's 9 seconds to Dimitri Gorski in 3rd. 4th is Andres Quintana, 2 seconds behind him. And then a further 3 seconds back to Johannes Schafranka in 5th position. So those are your top 5 in the 3 classes as we enter the final 2.5 minutes of the race. Ryan Walker, thoughts on this race? 75-minute race. We talk about how it can open up the strategy, and I think we really did see that in abundance today.
Yeah, it's been a good race to commentate on today. As for strategies, the strategies I've watched have been seems to be a mixture of strategy. Some people will be pitting early, some people will be trying to go as long as possible to save time by not having to add as much fuel. But yeah, it's been interesting to watch, and yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed commentating today, and look forward to commentating on more of these races in the future.
I know you've got a cold, so thank you for sticking with it here today. And yeah, just a reminder for viewers, this is the only broadcast we've got today. There'll be no BSR Mazda MX-5 tonight. That's been postponed. The next race meeting, of course, will be next Sunday, but this particular race meeting will be moved to later in the season. And the Club 73 Touring Car Championship as well is not going to be taking part tonight either. That would have formed part of our Super Sunday on Apex Racing TV. Reminder though that tomorrow we will be racing in the iRacing Porsche Cup, which will be entering round 3 of the championship there, and that'll be on Apex Racing TV at 8:45 British summer time. Final lap then for Simon Grossman. He's just about to start it actually. He's going through the final corner now. 53 seconds on the clock. And what a performance this has been. 13-second lead. Only just lapping just under a second slower than his fastest lap of the race, which is the fastest lap out of everyone. As he puts another lap on Johannes Schafranka, going into turn 3. Through the S's now, where we saw the end for Hugo Preto earlier on in the race. Now up into turn 5. One of the trickiest parts on the circuit. Flashing the lights at Andres Quintana in front of him. He goes up the inside of him into turn 6. Now into turn 7 and onto the back straight for the final time. He's lapped everyone up to David Weiss in 5th. David Weiss is 1 minute and 12 seconds behind. That's David Weiss in front of us. He will be spared getting lapped. He will have to go around for one more time. A brilliant job by Simon Grossman. Started on pole position, fastest lap, and what will surely be the race win. Through the final corner, through turn 11, and now through the right-hander at turn 12, and round 3, IMSA Sportscar Series will go to Simon Grossman. He takes the win. Second win in the German GT3 to Massimo Carbagnani. He crosses the line now, takes a checkered flag. Michel Ricci isn't too far away, but Joseph Burton-Harris is going to come through and take second place. Dirk Reinhardt isn't too far away from the final corner either, which will round out the podium after the demise of Marco Ardiacono after that questionable move through the exit of turn 1 when there was a car rejoining the circuit after making a pit stop. Reinhardt completes the podium. Cohen Klopman takes second for BMW, and Luigi Nespolino rounds up the podium there. And now here comes Michel Ricci into the final corner. Well, into the final complex of corners, I should say. Pretty easy job from him so far today. And he is going to take the Porsche win. Shoga should get second place. Heading for the final corner. Now the surviving of the two teammates. Marcel Fassbender, we saw what happened to him. But Masai Shoga was able to be on. And he took second place in the Porsche class. Here comes Dmitry Gorski. Through the final corner. And that is third place in class for him. And he is the last car to cross the line. So let's run you through the finishing order then from the third race meeting of the season. Win for Simon Grossman, second Josephson Harris, third for Dirk Reinhard, fourth for Thibaut Vernice, fifth David Weiss, and sixth Danilo Piazza with Chris Pence, 3 laps down. Timo Corbignani takes the win in the German GT3s. Second for Cohen Klopman. That strategy for the BMW didn't work out at all. I thought it might be a masterstroke, but there's me always rooting for the BMWs. It didn't go too well for him. Luigi Nespolino finished in third. Fourth, Marco Nessi. He was able to get ahead of Jorge Blascavals. Then it was Nestoras Kiasoglu in sixth. Seventh, Mika Lurky. And rounding out the German GT3s in eighth, Adam Shalmasi. Then into the Porsches. Michel Ricci takes the win. Second, Matthias Schoger. Third for Dmitry Gorski. Fourth, Andres Quintana. Fifth, Johannes Schafranka. Sixth, Jason Marcal. Seventh, Yuo Tiomian. And then Marcel Fassbender 9 laps down. Had to pit for a second time. And paid the price heavily after leaving the pits and getting collected. But Marco Archdiacono finished behind him 16 laps down. Paul Darling 18 laps down. Nick Thiessen also out. Andy Pers as well. And Hugo Preto, the first of the cars out after losing it in the S's. Well then, I think we are just about out of time as the donuts are performed on the circuit. My thanks to Ryan Walker and to Sam Kumo for both joining me in the comms box and on the cameras today. I know both of you are suffering a little bit, so I will wrap things up quickly here at Road Atlanta. And thank you for watching. We will see you tomorrow on Apex Racing TV for the iRacing Porsche Cup at 8:45 British Summer Time, 9:45 Central European Time. But from all of us here at Apex Racing TV, Simon Grossman, pole position, fastest lap, race win. He completed the set here at Road Atlanta. From all of us here, good night.